Evening and welcome back. So it's crystal clear that drunk people will not socially distance. What a shocker. And although, of course, this might seem apparent on the offset, the thing with intoxication and being drunk and inebriation is that it makes you do the things that you want to do, that although you are still aware of the consequences of your actions, you don't care about it. That is what leads to the hedonistic impulses. So people are still aware of the outcomes or the consequences for what they're doing, but they tend to not care so much. And so they will still, of course, care about life or death situations, but they won't care so much about embarrassing themselves or doing something which society thinks is a bit weird or shameful. And that's why, people wake up with that feeling of dread and shame of, what on earth did I do last night? And so when it comes to, they won't socially distance, well, that ties into two things. One is the aforementioned lack of care of what other people are thinking, in which case they will just do what feels right to them at the time, and therefore not really care about, what are the police going to say about this, but not if it's a life or death situation, which suggests that most people really don't care about the whole social distancing thing, the whole debacle, the kerfuffle that we seem to have got ourselves into. And secondly, mob mentality. So if the crowd is doing a particular thing, then you're going to join in with the crowd, and you're more susceptible to that. If intoxicated because it feels like the right thing, so you're going to do it, why not? So with the combination of those things, you've got people not actually thinking that the social distancing is necessary. It's not a helpful preventative, it's not a useful thing to try and enforce. And then secondly, they know that there's strength in numbers, and if you got as many people as you see here not causing a ruckus, as we'll get onto, that they're not causing problems, then of course the police are not going to break them up like they have done with the London street parties, which of course have been violent and threatening, and that's why the police got involved. So with in mind, people have been having a great time, and put simply, there haven't been any problems. Of course, in Leicester, they haven't been able to frolic about as they see fit because, social distancing, don't you know? And the funny thing about this is that if you are really concerned about coronavirus, then it has its shortest lifespan in hot, humid, sunny weather. That's it. If you've got UV rays, if it's humid and if it's hot, then at about, 28 degrees C, 80% humidity, and in direct UV light, it lasts about 60 seconds. It's a minute. That's it, instead of hours that it would ordinarily. So being outside is a good preventative measure, if this is actually about the coof. But during night, of course, it's not quite as effective. Of course, being outside, they're hopeful that the British weather will be reliably unpredictable, and therefore the rain will keep people away. But on the odd times you have a nice summer evening, people would love to be outside, socialise, drinking. It's a great time. I mean, sure that they're trying to show this photo by, look just how scary it is, but then you also see it's multicultural, and almost everybody's smiling and having a great time. You see the guy here, the guys over here all grinning and smiling, the lady here, these guys chatting to each other, smiling as well, these guys all through here, that they're having a great time. I mean, if you want to do something that would be categorically unpopular and unnecessary, then try and crack down on these revelers all enjoying each other's company and having a whale of a time. That alcohol is called a social lubricant for a reason. That this is what making the most of life is all about. That the purpose of life is to live it, and if you need something in order to be able to make the most of it, and that thing is alcohol, then by all means use that as a starting off point. It's never good to need an external crutch, but as far as having a nice cold pint on a summer evening with your friends, meeting new people, it doesn't get much better than that. So if you try and crack down on this, you're going to be having a very, very bad time. Of course, the BBC has tried to say that this is a terrible thing, and they've tried to put a damper on the whole thing, which everybody is enjoying, but they can't quite get away with it. Because, they say, John Apter dealt with naked men, happy drunks, angry drunks, fights, and more angry drunks on shift in Southampton. But police thanked the majority of people for acting responsibly as they enjoyed the night out. That, yes, of course, you've got... It's a kind of survivor bias, if you will. That he's saying that dealing with angry drunks, fights, and more angry drunks, well, that is hardly a surprise if you're the police. Because the police are hardly going to be called to a place and say, hey, police, can I get police here as soon as possible, please? Everyone's having a great time, and we think you deserve a drink as well. That, rightly or wrongly, doesn't happen. So, of course, the police are not going to be called to somewhere where people are having a great time. If you look at the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people who've enjoyed their time out, and then the few thousand police that have been on patrol and had interactions with the people, then it seems like this was a resounding success. So Devon and Cornwall police, so they received more than 1,000 reports, most of which were drink related. And the Metropolitan Police said there were no significant issues in the capital. And the point of this with reports as well means that the police weren't called out. They just said, stuff's going on here. And the police probably went, yeah, okay, cool, no worries. And as we see here, the police are seen walking through heavy crowds in Soho, central London. And if they're so concerned about the coof, then you would be able to notice the ear straps of the masks on the backs of the heads, which of course you can't see, and especially not on this gentleman here with his face to the side. So they're not wearing masks, because it doesn't matter. Good, and of course the people aren't, because they're drinking and having a great time, as this couple clearly are. So Mr. Apter from the Police Federation, an association for police staff in England and Wales, said, what was crystal clear is the drunk people can't or won't socially distance, and neither will the police by the look of things. They're that close to each other as well. It was a busy night, but the shift managed to cope. I know other areas have had issues with officers being assaulted. I wonder why. Could it be with anything to do with the street parties we've been experiencing in London? So as he said, the vast majority of people are, he thinks, doing the right thing. Well, of course they are. They're just pleased to be able to be out and about. He told Sky News, overall, I'm pleased with what happened yesterday. It was really good to see people out and about and very largely social distancing. Let's skip that last bit. And also, Sir Simon Stevens, NHS England Chief Executive, told the BBC's Andrew Marshall, pleasingly, we did not see last night the kind of scenes that people feared might be. It was the foolish few, but the sensible majority. And probably the best bit of the whole article is Rob Moore, paramedic at the West Midlands Ambulance Service, said it had been a really average night shift in his area. Good, as far as the paramedics are concerned as well. Good, really average, nothing special. Good job, guys. West Midlands. Let's clap that one out. He said, we were really prepared for a sudden upsurge in calls related to people being out drinking, but it hasn't happened, thankfully. He said, hopefully it's a sign people have heeded the advice and had a sensible night, as it seems like they have. I mean, chances are they've still got their alcohol tolerances from being locked in and drinking. And also, as they go on to say... have they taken it down since this has been updated? They've taken it down. There's got to be somewhere. That they said that they were expecting something along the lines of a New Year's Eve night, but that didn't materialise whatsoever. Those fears were really unfounded. But, of course, they don't seem to mention it anymore, which is good. It's not really worth mentioning. But nonetheless, that they had expected people to be revelling out and it be as much mayhem as kind of a New Year's Eve night on the 4th of July in England. I know the irony is not lost on me, and yet no, people just had a great time. They just did. So of course their new 1 meter plus guidance says that they can get closer if they use mitigation measures such as face coverings and not sitting face to face, because of course if you're not sitting face to face, any spittle from you or any moisture which you say when you speak clearly just goes straight in front of you, not around you. It's not going to land on anything that anybody else would touch. That's definitely not a risk. except of course it isn't. We would have seen that with everybody using the same supermarkets, touching things, putting them back, coughing, sneezing, talking, breathing. We would have seen a spike everywhere if it was such a big problem. But of course it isn't. So, good. I'm glad that they have actually stayed true to their word and said, we can open it up. And now if they don't see the spike, which of course they won't, then we'll all be fine. Dr. Chris Smith, a virologist from the University of Cambridge, these are now the exalted people, said that the majority of people are responsible but urged caution, citing cities such as Leicester and Melbourne, which have imposed localised lockdowns. Yes. Let's go to our Antipodes to see how they're doing over there. Good job. He said, I would remind people, have a look at what's going on around the world. We could easily lurch back in the wrong direction if we don't remain vigilant, because this thing hasn't gone away. We've still got a lot of circulation of the virus in this country. It's just a lot lower than when we started. And it's good they don't include bits about until we get a vaccine. And in Leicester, as I say, streets were largely deserted because everything's closed, basically. And in Scotland and Wales, they've still remained closed. But Northern Ireland opened first on Friday, because of course they did. Northern Ireland pubs. You've got to get that Guinness. Am I right? But yeah, overall, everyone's been having a lovely time, and I think it's worth just going back to the photo that we saw at the beginning, really, just to remind us of just how much of a good time it can be to be able to socialise and to not forget how important it is to have the kinesthetics, as in touching people, being tactile, and seeing people smile and the warmth and hearing their voice and seeing their eyes and the expressions that people make and having that interaction with people is really what makes life worthwhile. And of course we're tribal or social beings, and interacting with people is fantastic. And this photo, which is supposed to be fearful, just proves the point. So keep doing what you're doing. Have a great time. I hope you guys are all doing things fun, but in a safe manner. Don't get in trouble now. Don't, if you're in a small group, of course you're going to get broken up for not social distancing. But I hope everybody's having a great time. You're able to meet up with your friends as the lockdown restrictions have eased in part. If you were abiding to them in the first place, of course, I really wouldn't blame you if you weren't abiding to unnecessary authoritarianism. So, actually for once, it's a good one. So until next time, keep on it and continue to have a good one.